the big tech companies who control distribution have really screwed everything up.
Chuck Todd himself holding a, I don't know, honorary cocktail dinner party for Hillary Clinton's communications director during the active presidential campaign that Chuck Todd was covering. No conflicts of interest whatsoever. Hey, it's Jordan. I am in Flint, Michigan, East Palestine, Ohio, Tumwa, Iowa. Please support the only independent outlet on the ground covering what the corporate media covers up. Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup. For you new subscribers, you may not know that Status Coup was created 6 years ago, not only to cover what corporate media covers up, but to expose when we can how the journalism industry in this country, the information system, has basically been hijacked by multi-billion-dollar corporate conglomerates, thus keeping you in the dark about what the hell is going on all around you. And Chuck Todd of NBC News, now that he's leaving, on the way out, he kind of accidentally admitted that mainstream media is corrupt. It's a beautiful thing to see. I don't realize if he was aware what he was saying, but it sure confirms what we've been telling you for a long time. Let's play this clip. He's doing an interview with Chris Cillizza, who is a former Washington Post CNN person, and they discuss the attack by Elon Musk and big tech against you and their takeover of the government. And Chuck Todd kind of sort of admitted that corporate media is kind of corrupt itself.
How do you get people to trust media again? And what's your 50,000 foot solution if you have one?
So look,
because clearly we have a problem, right? I mean,
look, the social media companies are antagonistic. The big tech companies who control distribution have really screwed everything up.
Yep.
And I think now it's intentionally so. I used to think it was sort of, well, this was them breaking things while they're trying to build something bigger and better. Now it's intentional, right? Now, clearly what Elon Musk is doing is trying to ruin the information ecosystem so that he can just use it for his bizarre ideology and his own personal greed or whatever his ambition is, if it's both political or financial. And I do this is, and then you have the big media companies that both have sort of access to the public airwaves, right? So there's always been this relationship with government that is sort of, at any moment in time, government could, in theory, overregulate the quote unquote free airwaves. And at the same time, you have these big media companies have decided, look, they have so much business in front of government, they don't want to antagonize them anymore.
These big media companies like NBC/Comcast, that's been signing my check for a few decades, have so much business before the government that they don't want to antagonize them anymore. Let that sink in. The former moderator of Meet the Press, one of the most prestigious, beloved media institutions in the land, just said these big media companies, NBC, MSNBC, owned by Comcast, who has been instrumental in killing net neutrality, have so much business before the government, they don't want to antagonize them anymore. Well, that sure explains a lot, huh? He talked about mainstream media, these big media companies have always had a interesting relationship with the government. And at any time, government could overregulate the free airwaves. Well, how about any regulation would be nice? Thank you, Bill Clinton, for deregulating the entire media ecosystem in 1996. Look up the Telecommunications Act. Now, you might say, Jordan, yeah, we knew this. What's the big deal? Well, yeah, we kind of know that mainstream media has been hijacked by corporations, but it's very rare for an anchor, I think he's a gas bag, but he's a well-known name, to just casually admit that essentially, because the government had so much business, because these big media companies have so much business before the government, they got to keep a distance. All that holding the powerful accountable, that's more like slogans than actual an exercise that they do every day. And I mean, Comcast, who signed his checks for a very long time, is a great case study in that. For those of you that don't know, I mean, Comcast has been a prime example of that whole let's not antagonize the government too much because for fear of overregulation. Joe Biden in 2020, his kickoff fundraiser was held at a Comcast executive's home, but he says he won't take money from federal lobbyists. No, it's just a fundraiser at the vice president of Comcast. Former Vice President Joe Biden's 2020 campaign won't accept donations from federal lobbyists, but a fundraiser scheduled for the day of his campaign also shows the limitations of such a pledge. Biden is set to attend a fundraiser Thursday night at the Philadelphia home of Comcast executive David Cohen, according to an invite first published by Politico. Well, that sure is having a lot of business before the federal government. If Comcast, which signed Chuck Todd's check and was a 24/7 propaganda machine for both Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden against Bernie Sanders, Bernie bros, Bernie's a sexist, racist, communist, doing literal fundraisers for Joe Biden. That same Comcast executive also supported Hillary Clinton, by the way. But doesn't stop there. Chuck Todd himself hosted a fundraiser. This is not an exaggeration. I believe while he was still Meet the Press moderator, he held a fundraiser at his house for Hillary Clinton's communications director. Chuck Todd hosted swanky dinner party at his home for top Clinton campaign official. Meet the Press host Chuck Todd and his wife, a Democratic consultant, hosted a dinner party at their Washington, D.C. area home last year for Jennifer Palmieri, Hillary Clinton's communications director. An invitation for the shindig was sent on July 11, 2015 to John Podesta, Clinton's campaign chairman. Podesta's hacked emails have been released online by WikiLeaks. The party, which also involved a cocktail hour, was thrown for Palmieri and her husband, Jim Lyons. Todd's wife, Christian Kenny Todd, was at the time a consultant for former Virginia Senator Jim Webb. The invite is just the latest glaring example of the cozy relationship between mainstream journalists and the Clinton campaign found in the Podesta emails. Reporters from the New York Times, MSNBC, Politico, and other outlets have been shown coordinating with Podesta. Now you might say, well, Jordan, that's not like the parent company, Comcast, doing business for the government. That's just the moderator of Meet the Press. And I stand corrected, not a fundraiser. I said fundraiser, holding a, honorary cocktail dinner party for Hillary Clinton's communications director during the active presidential campaign that Chuck Todd was covering. No conflicts of interest whatsoever. And by the way, Chuck Todd was incredibly biased, not even hiding it, against Bernie Sanders in 2015-16. Want more? Comcast, this was from 2019. Comcast does so much lobbying before the federal government that it says disclosing it is too hard. Comcast may be harming its reputation by failing to reveal all of its lobbying activities, including its involvement in trade associations and lobbying at the state level. A group of shareholders says in a proposal that asks for more lobbying disclosures. Comcast disclosures for its lobbying of state governments, quote, are often cursory or non-existent. And Comcast's failure to disclose its involvement in trade associations means that investors have neither an accurate picture of the company's total lobbying expenditures, nor an understanding of its priorities, interests, or potential risks from membership. Comcast's lack of transparency around its lobbying poses risk to its already troubled reputation, which is concerning in a highly regulated industry, especially given the rise of public internet alternatives. They do so much lobbying, even their own shareholders have no idea what the hell they're doing. And I guarantee you, the audience of MSNBC, NBC News have no idea what the rich people signing the checks of the journalists, anchors, are lobbying the federal government for. This is all completely kosher, right? has nothing to do with why corporate media doesn't report on the growing environmental disasters and corporate sacrifice zones, the new gilded age we live in, local, state, and federal corruption, the literal tsunami of money purchasing our politicians. Why would they report on it when they're part of that corruption? But let's not just stop. Let's be fair. It's not just Comcast. Warner Bros. Discovery. Warner Bros. Discovery owns CNN right now. There's talks of a selling. Headline: the Wall Street leaders who could play a role in Trump's new administration. So this is recent. What could happen with deals? Corporate executives and rainmakers are wildly optimistic that mergers and acquisition business will open up under a second Trump administration. Expect more deals in industries including defense, energy, and manufacturing. There could also be more media and tech deals. That's certainly the hope of executives like David Zaslav, the CEO of Warner Bros. Discovery. But those may be decided on a case-by-case basis. Remember that the Justice Department under Trump sought to block AT&T's takeover of Time Warner. So, the head honcho of Warner Bros. Discovery, which owns CNN, pretty optimistic under Trump that they could do some mergers and acquisitions to further monopolize and deregulate and consolidate the already deregulated and corporate media infrastructure. So you think Warner Bros. Wants CNN to go super, super hard at Trump? And CNN, by the way, has already been criticized for laying kid gloves on Trump so far, as Trump basically nukes the federal government and does one unprecedented, norm-breaking, undemocratic, quasi-fascist thing after the next. As Chuck Todd said, a lot of business before the federal government. If you want just the numbers, look at that chart for Warner Bros. Discovery's lobbying. Boy, it keeps rising. 2024, holy cow, $2.7 million in lobbying. The parent company of CNN lobbied the federal government. And I got bad news for you. They weren't lobbying for more streetlights, for safer communities. I mean, this is truly, truly corrupt stuff. And not to be forgotten, Fox News, which is a 24-hour lobbying machine for the Republican Party. I mean, you really just can't even make this up. Fox News, obviously owned by Rupert Murdoch and News Corp. If you missed this, this was, I believe, just a few days ago, Trump doing another one of his, dizzying array of executive order signatures. Look who was sitting comfortably across the room from the Donald.
The deal with Mexico this morning, was that partially related to the market reaction and the criticism from Mr. Murdoch's own newspaper? He called it the dumbest trade war on the editorial page on Saturday.
I'm going to have to talk to him.
Was this market reaction or concern about
I've been right
the
over
economy?
the Wall Street Journal many times. I don't
wanna pick
agree
a
with
fight
him on
here,
some
sir, but-
things. No, it's not only is it not dumb. You're going to see. Every single one of those countries is dying to make a deal.
I mean, who needs to lobby when the CEO, the dinosaur himself, Rupert Murdoch, who's done more damage to journalism than anyone I could think of over the last few decades, who needs a lobbying machine when the CEO has, open door privileges to the White House? Trump and him, by the way, were meeting along with fellow billionaire Larry Ellison. I'm sure they were meeting about, healthcare for all and, improving education, reversing gentrification, cleaning up the poison water in America. This is why Status Coup exists, folks. Our media is corrupt. Honestly, the tech platforms like the one I'm on now, essentially years ago, openly said we're going to lift. YouTube's CEO at the time said we are going to elevate authoritative voices like CNN and Fox News. That's what they said openly. What they left out is we are going to bury in the algorithm independent outlets like Status Coup. Get your Status Coup gear and merch at statuscoup.com/store, by the way. Thank you, Chuck Todd, for saying the quiet part out loud. The corporate media is a massive corrupt scheme to make a mostly older audience think that we still have an upstanding free press in this country, when in the reality, we have essentially a bunch of millionaire and very wealthy people making high six figures doing PR for the government and slapping makeup on themselves and the title of journalist. These are essentially PR people doing PR for government and corporate America, as the people that sign their checks lobby the government for tax cuts, deregulation, and favorable policy, depending on their industry. That is why independent media, truly independent media that is not funded by Rupert Murdoch or Warner Bros. Discovery or Comcast or any of the vultures purchasing our government, is so important. Continue to support, if you can, Status Coup for as low as $5 a month.